Recognizing the House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been many days spent on finance estimates, and probably by necessity, some of the questions I'll raise have been canvassed in different ways, but it would be helpful to use the hour that I have to get a picture, and that'll certainly help British Columbians and everyone in the House to sort of see a summary snapshot that I'll endeavor to cover in the hour. Today, what I'd like to do is use this time to get to the heart of the government's economic strategy and overall vision. May end up being a bit of a summary of discussion over a number of days. I recognize that this fiscal year falls within very uncertain economic times, and this is precisely why we look to the Minister to continue providing strong financial leadership. But we also would like to better understand the vision that is the basis for that financial leadership, and we appreciate the need to respond to economic threats. We also would like to better understand the overall vision and strategy over several budget cycles, really over for the province's economy in the next 10 years. And the fiscal plan certainly commits to standing strong for BC and protecting the essentials, not making flashy announcements. We totally support that. But it has become increasingly clear that we're going to need to do a lot more to support people in this province. And day in, day out in this session, we have discussed areas where there is a need to build the fiscal framework and the revenue base to actually do a lot more for people in this province. And so in order to better understand how that would work, we're also going to want to have a summary assessment in the time we have of how we're going to tackle some of the financial issues that we face, whether it's economic threats, affordability crisis, climate change, growing deficit. You know, it's a multifaceted challenge, and we've talked about this before, but really having an understanding of where much larger scale innovation plays into building the economy of the future. British Columbians deserve strong financial leadership, and this needs to be backstopped by a comprehensive and proactive vision for the economic future. And so we are definitely curious about this government's overall vision and the proactive plan that you have for the long term. We've broken our questions down into several areas, but in terms of general economic strategy, through the chair, can the minister outline the long-term economic strategy for the BC economy over the next 10 years, and specifically how this year's fiscal plan builds towards that long-term strategy, and how you believe it will allow us to meet what you envision over the next 10 years.
Minister?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Good evening to the member opposite, and thank you for the question. I'll share with the member through you, Honourable Chair, that I have to behave myself a bit here because I could talk about this for the rest of our time. So with respect to you, Honourable Member, I'll keep it very brief, but please ask any specifics that you would like. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about where we see the province going and the extraordinary opportunity that lies in front of us, Honourable Chair. This province has everything we need to succeed, absolutely everything. And first and foremost are the amazing people in this province, people who have access to excellent education. We've got some of the best universities in the world right here in British Columbia. People who are learning trades at our amazing colleges and trade schools, people who are learning engineering and computer skills and medicine and all of it that help drive our economy. We see a vision that really sees British Columbia as the economic engine of Canada. And you've heard the Premier speak about this, member through the chair. And this involves us really accessing our natural resources, accessing our clean energy, using our the access to critical minerals that we have in the province to ensure that we're driving forward on electrification, not only for our province, but being a provider across the country. But we do this in a way that also harnesses technology. And this is a point that I'm so excited about and what it means for the future of the province, because technology can make us more competitive. We've got the raw goods, and you combine that with the talented people that we have and the technology that's being built in our province and elsewhere, and you have a winning combination, Honourable Chair. And you know, there are so many examples. The technology that's coming forward now in mining, making mines so much safer than they used to be, Honourable Chair, and so much cleaner than they ever were. The clean tech sector is booming in British Columbia, Honourable Chair. In fact, as the member very likely knows, this week sees the largest tech conference in the world happens in Lisbon. It's called Web Summit. It's the Olympics of Tech. And we've been successful in attracting Web Summit right here into British Columbia. It's here for 3 years. We stole it from Toronto. It had been called Collision. It's been rebranded in the Web Summit brand. There's one in Rio, there's one in Europe in Lisbon, and now there's one here in British Columbia. And this shines the world's light on our tech and innovation right here in British Columbia. Every major media outlet in the tech world is right here in British Columbia this week. 15,000, I'm hearing, in fact, they've oversold 17,000 people in British Columbia this week, looking at our innovations, looking at our technology, engaging with our startup ecosystem. When this conference was held in Toronto, there were 1,200 deals signed. We need to attract investment into this province, and that's what this conference can help us do. And the vision is one where that coupling of innovation that drives forward safety and low carbon solutions and ways to do things more efficiently and unlocking value combined with our natural resource sector, we're winners. That's it. That is the strategy that's going to help us win. We have everything we need to make that happen. So there are many other things I could say, but thank you for allowing me to get the conversation started with that framing. Thank you, Chair.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister. The success of achieving that vision very much depends on being nimble, but also being able to manage for the curveballs that we can all expect. Some of them are going to be curveballs in a very positive way, others won't. And in this session, we have seen the government stepping back commitments it made in the budget. The government committed to meeting environmental standards and growing a green economy, but the targets aren't being met, and clean energy projects like the EV rebate have been cancelled. The government committed to diversifying the economy, yet we've seen taxes cancelled that brought in significant revenue streams with no proposed alternative as yet. This is not to say that economies like BC's don't have challenges to face, but as part of implementing this vision, how will this government, through the chair to the minister, hold itself accountable to its long-term economic strategy and vision, and ensure transparency over its fiscal plan as it executes on the vision?
Minister?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you to the member opposite for the question. The first thing I'll mention in regards to the question about accountability and transparency, our budget is built in accordance with the Budget Transparency Act, and we are committed to accountability and transparency and to update, of course, every quarter. The member may have heard we've got a quarterly update coming up in September. But I take the members' comments in regards to being nimble, particularly at this moment in time, which is such a challenging one for people internationally, with global trade having been disrupted in ways that were just unimaginable a year ago. And so we've increased our contingency in this budget and each of the years in the fiscal plan by $1 billion. So the contingency is now at $4 billion for each of the 3 years. And you know, the member described the potential of curveballs, and that really is the tool that we have to handle curveballs. For example, like initial response that may be necessary for the tariffs to support people. But I do want to share with the member that we retain our will and passion in regards to the environment. And despite having to have made a very difficult decision, one I did not enjoy doing, to remove the carbon tax, we do look forward to working with the members opposite on the Clean BC review and for looking at opportunities to continue to advance the environmental agenda. And I'll share with the member that really important to that work is aligning it with affordability. And that is the work ahead of us, that we mustn't be in a scenario where a British Columbian is compelled to choose between affordability and climate action. We need to find solutions that marry those two things together, and that's the work ahead.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister. We just spoke moments ago in terms of the resources and skills and talents we have in the province. We have, you know, obviously very strong universities, strong trades, as the Minister mentioned, the resources, the clean energy sector, and we really see a major conferences and so on as a springboard. Given the scale of challenges we face and the scale of opportunities still to be realized, whether it's in delivery of healthcare, education, a whole variety of areas where there's so much more we can do, and that innovation, I couldn't agree with the Minister more, that innovation is going to be the cornerstone of building that long-term fiscal framework. I wondered if the Minister could offer us a sense of how, in the Minister's vision, we'll be able to scale up the innovation, whether it's in mining or whether it's in the clean tech, in any number of sectors. Because really what we have is we have the beginning in a very positive way of a very significant, innovative economy. But in order, the question I have really relates, how do you see getting that scaled up over the next 10 years? Because really where we all want to be is having $15 or $20 billion more in terms of spending capacity to do many of the things that we've all talked about, but not through debt, obviously. And so that means really scaling up the innovative economy. So I'd be interested in the Minister's vision in terms of scaling up what's a promising start.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and through you to the member. It's really about the whole ecosystem, isn't it? How we grow it all, and multiple tools needed to continue to do that. So I'll share some of those tools and how we see them helping with scale. So of course, a major component to scaling companies is investment, and it needs to happen in a number of ways. Investing in startups is important. You know, the startup community, we've got a wonderful startup community. It was just Startup Week last week in British Columbia. Amazing work being done. And through Innovate BC and the many number of accelerator programs throughout the province, there's quite a lot of support available to startups. We'd like more. There's work to be done. But Accelerate Okanagan, Hub up in up in Prince George, you know, Innovate in Vancouver, Viatech here. These are amazing organizations that identify very promising startups and help them grow. Finding money to go from, you know, when you get to a medium-sized company and to become a larger-sized company is also challenging. A couple different things there. We need to ensure that we create the tools to invite investment into British Columbia, but we also need to invest ourselves. So a couple of things happening there. We created and stood up InBC. InBC is a $500 million strategic investment fund that's specifically designed to align with government priorities and help companies grow. And those government priorities include clean technologies, companies led by people from diverse backgrounds who are often underfunded, and regional components, so to ensure that companies that are outside the Lower Mainland and Victoria are getting opportunities to grow as well. And we've seen some really, really encouraging investments, and many I could point to. Two I'll mention. One is Clarius Technologies, which is a portable ultrasound. It looks like it's kind of the size, if I could use a prop very quickly, of an iPhone, and is a really powerful tool. Say, for example, I were a person living in community remotely and having a difficult pregnancy. Traveling to a hospital could be really challenging, but this is a solution that can get real data very quickly to a physician or a nurse in town. So that's a British Columbia company that received funding through NBC and is seeing excellent growth trajectory. Another one that I'll mention is Forage, which is a mushroom robotics company, I think in the Kootenays, that has a world-leading solution for mushroom harvesting. There are many other examples, and NBC is also investing in investment funds to help investment funds with their reach, including Indigenous investment funds. So really important model and part of the solution to the question you're asking about how we scale. Web Summit is another way to draw the attention of investors into our innovation hub here in British Columbia to ensure that they're getting in front of investors. It's sometimes hard for small and medium-sized businesses to make the trips they need to get the attention that they need. So for us to bring them there is an offering to those companies to help them with growth. We also have increased in this budget the small venture investment tax credit, which now goes to $500,000 were you an angel or super angel investor. And again, that is to help for exactly what the member through you, Honourable Chair, has identified. These are all working in conjunction with each other. And at the same time, Innovate BC, we've rewired Innovate BC to really give it the tools it needs, and it needs more. We need to continue doing this work, but we've given them additional tools to help them, and they've got an intellectual property strategy, which is so important because one of the pieces of our history in British Columbia is that we build very good quality tech, good companies built on tech, and they exit. And they exit with the IP. The IP is where the value lies. We need to work to keep intellectual property here in British Columbia. And it's similar to, you know, people who don't really kind of get IP. What's a way to understand it? It might be similar to saying, you know, we've got a challenge in the forestry industry when you ship raw logs to Japan, for example. That's what I grew up, the challenge that I remember my dad talking about. Well, this is kind of the same thing. You know, we ship it off without unlocking the value. We've got to unlock the value here, keep it here, grow the IP here. So that IP strategy is very important, and that's work that Innovate is doing, teaching people about the value of IP, how to protect it, how to use it as both a sword and a shield, how to keep it here. Through our life sciences strategy, we're making direct investments into companies that can be anchor companies, that are now anchor companies in British Columbia to ensure that they grow here and that their IP stays here. We've made a number of investments in companies like Abcelera, $75 million, matched by $225 from the federal government, $400 from the private sector, a $700 million life science campus, more than 500 jobs created. This is good work. Same thing with Aspect Biosystems, very promising life science company doing extraordinary things. Made an investment, landed them here, keeping them in British Columbia where their IP lives. They're part of what we're growing. We have the fastest growing life sciences sector in Canada, largely because of the work we're doing. These are good examples, and this can be a pathway of how we do this work to continue this growth. I have many other things that I would like to say, but I do want to honor the member with having time for him to ask his questions, so I'll stop there. Thank you.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Honourable Chair. Another key part of the vision is tax system review and reform. And so I'd be interested in the Minister's vision for the BC tax system and what the Minister sees as the largest barriers in achieving this vision. You know, over the past several years, our tax system has become even more complex than it used to be. Comes with concerns that our tax system is not functioning as efficiently as it could be, and be interested to know if the government would consider a comprehensive and systematic review of BC's entire tax system so that we can ensure that it's appropriately modernized and efficient and not overly complex for individuals or businesses. And so through the chair, I'd welcome the minister's view in terms of looking at bringing the tax system into the 21st century.
Minister?
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and I'll answer this in quite a broad way, but of course, taxes really are such an important tool in our efforts to raise the money needed to provide the supports we need for British Columbians. And there are two sometimes competing important philosophies going into this. One of them is British Columbia is a small, open market, and we must remain competitive. And that is an important factor as we consider the tax regime. And so too is the question of equity and a tax regime that is progressive and supports the most vulnerable.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister. Certainly acknowledge the need for equity and the need for tax competitiveness, and that's certainly the motivation for raising the previous question around conducting a comprehensive review to really ensure that our tax policy and our taxation framework is suited to the vision we're discussing and also the challenges we face. A couple of examples. The first one is there's certainly a heavy reliance on personal income tax to generate a significant portion of the revenue. This fiscal year, it's projected that personal income will make up over 20% of government revenues, personal income tax, which is an increase of 3% since 2017-18. And so a question, I'll probably raise two questions because I think they're interrelated, but certainly the first question is what is the government's plan to avoid over-reliance on personal income tax? And let me link that to another contextual piece and question, which is that in Canada, the richest 1% in Canada control 25% of the wealth in the country, and the 87 wealthiest families hold more wealth than the bottom 12 million Canadians combined. So we have a big wealth gap in Canada, and there's nothing to suggest BC is different. And so as part of the not having over-reliance on personal income tax, so a question around how are we going to tackle that? And then also, how do we ensure that the wealthiest in this province are paying their fair share? And for example, should the government consider implementing an additional marginal tax rate for incomes over $350,000?
Minister?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Through you to the member, I can hear your point in regards to perhaps there are areas that could use an update in our tax regime. I think that that is true. I will share with the member that before every budget, we do look at tax recommendations from many stakeholders, many business groups, First Nations, other stakeholders, and review those recommendations quite thoroughly. And I will share with the member that we have taken measures in the direction that the member is inquiring. So specifically, I'll share that British Columbians benefit from some of the lowest tax rates in Canada. For people earning up to $150,000, they actually pay the lowest personal income taxes among provinces. On the other hand, since 2017, we've brought in a number of taxes that are specifically geared towards high-income earners. For example, a tax increase on big corporations in the top 2% of income earners, as well as a luxury car tax, which is 20% on million-dollar cars, for example. And I will also mention the speculation tax, which of course is a tax that is designed to bring homes into the market, and is a tax that has shown quite good results in that way. So those are some examples.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister. Another area that we've touched on already, which certainly is part of the long-term vision, is in the area of building a long-term clean, green economy. And I'd be interested, through the chair, to the minister, how the minister sees that transition occurring over the next 10 years.
Minister?
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and through you to the member. I will speak about some of the work that we're doing more over the fiscal plan, the 3-year fiscal plan that we've been working on in regards to how to continue the transition to a clean, green economy. And some of this work is happening, being led by my colleagues, for example, in ECS. And while we have made the difficult decision to remove the consumer carbon tax, of course, I'll point out to the member that we have retained the carbon pricing system for industrial polluters. And of course, this includes a design that is really more of a carrot than a stick, in that for these emitters, they can sell the credits for revenue for the investments that they've made on cleaning their operations, for example. I know the member is going to be engaged in the Clean BC work that will help us move this agenda forward. And I do also want to just come back to the innovation file. I think a file that I have a strong passion for, and I believe the member shares that passion. There's many examples, but I'll draw to one that we've increased funding in this particular budget. There were very few increases of funding in this budget, by design, of course, but one of them was for the IMI. This is a program that's run through Innovate BC, and I'm such a believer of this program. I've seen the incredible results that this program can bring. So what does it do? It addresses the challenge that when we have a promising up-and-coming company and they need to land, they can get smaller customers, but they need to land a big customer to show that they can work at scale, that can show that their technology can be successful at scale. And so what the IMI does is that it looks for large players that have a particular challenge and partners them with a solution here in British Columbia, brings them together, and our investment de-risks this partnering. And it allows these businesses to really show their stuff, to be successful with a large partner, which then they can show to the world. And this is really a way of doing strategic procurement, I would argue. And so I think the member perhaps might be familiar with the company, through you, Honourable Chair, Moment Energy, which is a company out of Coquitlam that benefited from an IMI investment and has gone on to grow quite significantly, and was very impressively one of the companies listed on the Clean 100 list internationally as a very promising technology. So we've invested an additional $40 million into that program this year. These are the kinds of tools that can really help accelerate the innovation and clean tech agenda.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the joys of having a number of critic portfolios in a caucus the size of 2 is that we get to participate in numerous estimates. And so I do have some questions that the ministers that we were in estimates with deferred to the Minister of Finance, demurred to the Minister of Finance. And so I'll just, this is sort of like the lightning round, so I'll just ask a few questions that came out of other estimates, and just in the time we have left, maybe we can touch on some of them. One of them is that the first-time homebuyers program allows people to get property transfer tax exemptions if the property has a fair market value of $835,000 or less. Yet the average price of homes in BC is around $965,000, creating a barrier for entry into home ownership. My question through you, Madam Chair, to the Minister is, would the minister consider raising the property value cap for the first-time homebuyers program to reflect increasing housing costs?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and through you to the member, in respect of the lightning round, I'll give you a quick answer, and it will be that, yes, we'd be happy to take a look at that, and we'll take it under advisement.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Capital Regional District has repeatedly reached out to this to your ministry since 2022, asking for the speculation and vacancy tax to apply to the Salt Spring Island electoral area. Yet, as of this morning, they advised they'd not heard back from the ministry. Through you, Madam Chair, to the minister, can the minister share where things stand with the request to apply the speculation and vacancy tax to Salt Spring, and what the timeline might look like to have a decision?
Minister.
Honourable Chair, again, in honour of it being a lightning round, I'll give you a very quick response, which is we're not aware of that specific letter with the group we have right here, but if the member would allow me to take that request away and get back to him, I'll do so.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Very much, Minister. Thank you, Madam Chair. When the flipping tax was launched last year, the Minister of Housing and the Premier said that they expected the tax to make over $40 million in revenue, and that it would also help free up more homes. Through the chair to the minister, is the minister able to tell us how much revenue has been made from the tax so far, and perhaps as well the estimated tax revenues for this year, this fiscal?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and through you to the member, while the flipping tax was announced in the previous budget, it did not come into play until January, and so it's only been 4 months. It's too early for us to have that data, but we will have that data, the initial information in Q1.
House Leader of the Third Party.
I've always wanted to say this. Noting the time, I would like to thank the minister and the minister's senior staff for helpful answers to my questions, and realize that this will be the beginning of perhaps an annual event, asking questions and estimates of the Minister of Finance. So thank you.